Okay, we're stickle in the middle of a sugya, but it's a digression from the digression. Again, we're in Masechta Menachos. We're digressed to the sugya of stam because the Mishnah mentioned that an ois is ma'akiv, and we got into stam as a result. And in the sugya of stam, there was a question: if you left out the Shem Hashem, right? There was a question if you left out the Shem Hashem, what do? We had different opinions. You erase, you blot out, and Shimon Zuri said if you can be toilet the whole, then fine. If only part, not. So that's how we and uh, and Rav Bar Chinna in Ula in the name of Rav Chanina said that the halacha is like Rav Shimon Zuri. Not only that, but any place that it's Shoshana that Rabbi Shimon Zuri has learned halacha kamaisai. And we set out to figure out where on which halacha was that stated, that the halacha is like Rabbi, and it couldn't have been over here because we had people mentioning the halacha and they didn't comment. So it could be over here. We then entertained maybe it's by the sugya of Ben Pekua. It wasn't there. Then maybe it was the sugya of get, taking out to give a get. Maybe even the Mesukin, it wasn't there. We said then, and basically then it was Trumas Maisa of the Mai, that wasn't there, and now we're up to Pula Mitzri. We're up to Trumas Maisa of the Mai. Ela Aha, Rabbi Yossi ben Kippur Oimer. We're about 8 lines up on Lamed Amid Beis. 8 lines up on Lamed Amid Beis. Ela Aha, Rabbi Yossi ben Kippur Oimer. Mishum Reb Shimon Shazuri. Pula Mitzri, some type of Egyptian bean. Shezore Lizera. You planted it for its seed. It seems that you can plant this for one or two things. You can plant it for its seed or plant it to be eaten. If you plant it to be eaten, then you go after Lakita. You go after when any vegetable to determine which year it belongs to, you go after when it's picked. However, regarding if you plant it for its seeds, then it's when it takes root. Then it takes root. So you can only take truma from the year that it was shaykh to the year. If not, it's mei chadash ala yashan or yashan ala chadash, and you can't take it. So it's in this vein that we're going to try to go ahead and ascertain whether this is the place where Chanina said the din of that the halacha k'moisai like Rabbi Shimon Sazuri. Pulmitri shezarei lezera miktsasei hishrus of Rosh Hashanah or miktsasei achar Rosh Hashanah. So now you have a crop from 2 different years. So you have to take off one crop from the first and one crop from the second. In other words, it's not the same year. You have to take off one from 26 and one from 25. So ein tarmim mizal zeh lefish ein tarmim umaysun lo min achadash al yashan lo min yashan al chadash. So Kate said, Yaseh, what should you do? Soiber garnoy l'toicha. Go ahead, you mix it all together in one big gairin. In other words, once it's one mixed together, you'll take it off, and the one that is appropriate for this, the one appropriate for that. The Isa that Rabbi Chanina said is din there. Not Hunami Lemi. He also should have said. Rabbi Chanina also should have said there. The halacha is like a shemesh zuri. So this is not the place. Elam Rapap. Again, this we're going through. Basically, we're going through a shas, guys. You go from, think about it. You were in Chulin, you were in Nashim and Ezekin, then you were in Gittin, and then you are now in Demai, and now El Omer Papa Ashida. Now you're in Tuma. Now you're in Masechta Kalim. Now you're Masechta. It's amazing. So the halacha is that if something is a kli, it's makabel Tuma. If something is so large, it loses its shame kli. It's not makabel Tuma. What's large? If it could hold 40 sa. If that sounds familiar, that's of course the share of a mikvah. So if it's that large, it cannot contract tama. So now we're discussing how do you go ahead and measure the dimensions that it should not be a kli. How do you measure the dimensions? So Ella Amra Papa Ashida. The dinner of Shimon Zuri, where he said Allah is like him, is going on the case of Ashida. If Ashida Teva Migdal, it's like a box that you would carry. So Rabbi Avi, when the bottom line, Lamed on the base. El Omra Papa Ashida. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar Ayayin. He says Ayayin. So Rav Papa says on the halacha of Shida, and Rav Nachman says he's the din of Yayin. Rav Papa Oma Ashida. He says what by an Ashida. Now this is in practical terms. It's an Amma by 3 Ammas, guys. In other words, guys, it's 1 by 1 and 3 high. That's it's so 1 amma, whether it's 18 inches or 2 feet, it can be it's a large area, right? It really is a large area, 1 by 1, and it's 3 ammas high. So the Tnan. It's now if you have a Gemara, fellas, it says Kalim Perik Yud Aleph Mishnah Aleph. That's a mistake. It's Kalim Perik Yud Ches. It's Kalim. It's Perik Yud Ches. It's not Perik Yud Aleph. So it says Yud Aleph, but it's really Yud Ches. Titnan Ashida Beishama Yoimim Nimdedes Mibifnim. You go ahead to ascertain its measurement that it can contain 40 saw and loses its shem kli. You only go after the ear space, the internal space. You'd include the walls. In other words, you would figure out if the wall wasn't there, it would count towards the shear of Aboim Sa. Umoidim elu laelu, both Shammai and Hillel Amoida, Shein Oive Haraglayim, the feet of the Shida, V'oive Halivsefin, and the rim, Nimdadim. They don't count towards the measurement. Rabbi Yossi Yom Moidim Sha'oive Haraglayim V'oive Alvazvazin Nimdadim. They do count towards it. Ubenayim, however, between them ain't nidadim. So let's say you have the feet, the area between them not, but the feet yet would count towards the. If the gavoy is tefach, if the feet are a high tefach, then ain beinahim. Then the area between the feet will not be included in the measurement. Then lav, however, if it's less than a tefach, and therefore then beinahim, then nimdadim. It would be. So this is the din of Rabbi Shimon Shebezuri, and the halach is like him over here, and we'll say the halach is like him all over. That's the havamina right now. That's the havamina right now, and this is Rav Papa's din, where we can apply Ula b'shem Reb Chanina, the halacha of Rabbi Shimon Shebezuri. Okay, Rav Nachman Yitzchak, I said Ayayin, he said Anyayin. Okay, so now we're staying with Tyrus. We're staying within Tyrus. Okay, so fellas, one of the Yud Ches Gezeris they made in Masechta Shabbos in the attic was any mashka is a rishon, no matter what it touches. Any mashka, if it has a shem mashka, it's a rishon l'tuma. You might remember the Gezeru atu mashka shel sheretz, right? The sheretz is an av, it touches the mashka. So any it's a rishon. It's any mashka that nan. Reb Meir oimer shemen tchila la'olam. Shemen will always be a tchila. Even if a sheni touches it, it'll be a tchila. It'll be a rishon. Tchila means a rishon l'tuma. It upgrades. This is tumah d'rabbanan baruch. It's a tumah d'rabbanan. It upgrades. V'chachamim moimrim af hadvash. Even the vash would have a shem mashka to be upgraded to a rishon. Reb Shimon Zuri yoimer af hayayin. Even wine. But not the vash or shemen. Mechal de Tanakama Sava Yayin Loi. So, in other words, fellas, if you think of a mashka, again, the drink at the time was yayin. There's no bigger mashka than yayin. So when Reb Shimon Shui says af yayin, that means the Tanakama would be disagreeing. When he says even wine, because he disagrees. But that can't be, says the Gemara, Mechlal that the Tanakama Sava Yayin Loi. And for the Gemara, Aim Reb Shimon Shazuri, Aim Yayin. Right? Reb Shimon Shazuri says what? He says Yayin. So this is according to Reb Nachman Yitzchak, the place where Reb Shimon Shazuri the halach is like him, and according to Reb Papa, it was the case of what? Of the Shida. Now, just to digress first, not digress, but to explain, what's this machloikis? Shemen is oil is not a. Reb Shimon Shazuri would say oil is not a mashka. I mean, Yad Shochadam, that machshirin, it's one of the. So if you look at Taisvis, Eimer Reb Shimon Shazuri Eimer Yayin, Pirish Yayin Dafka, V'loy Shemen Udevash, V'hikshur Rabbeinu Tam. The Hacha Paskina Reb Shimon Shazuri. Over here we paskin like Reb Shimon Shazuri. Ubechol Duchte Mashma Stama Dashas the Shemen Chosher Mashka. Again, Reb Shimon Shazuri is saying only wine and not Shemen. Yet you look throughout Shas and Shemen is a mashka. For example, Perakami de Shabbos, Gabe, if they ma boitzrin b'tahira, why do they gather, they harvest their grapes b'tahira? They moiskin b'tahira, but they don't gather their olives b'tahira. So now, what you're gathering olives, and it's for, and it means oil. So you see that it is a mashka. Umesechta machshirin, the choshev b'shiva mashkin, yayin b'shemen. The seven liquids that can be makabel tuma, that can be machsher, can go ahead and prepare a food to makabel tuma. Shemen is one of them. Frek Taisus Rabbeinu Tama Bam Kasha. How can you, Rav Shimon Shizuri, say shemen is not a mashka? So if you go down right before Taisus ends, 2 lines up, it says V'tiris Rabbeinu Tam in the middle of the line. You have it. V'tiris Rabbeinu Tam the Hachamari B'Korosh. We're speaking about coagulated shemen. It's coagulated. Kediktani Reisha Hashemen v'Acholav Shal Grisen. So Pirish, here's the machloikis. What happens? Does it lose its shem mashka when it's coagulated? Says Rav Shimon Zuri, yes. Yayin not, but shemen does. So we're not speaking about stam shemen. Rav Shimon Zuri says Rabbeinu Tam, of course, we moida. Shemen is a liquid, is a mashka. We're speaking about solidified, coagulated shemen. In that case, what? That's where he argues. It's a good teretz to a very, very difficult kasha. Okay, it fills in some information. Okay, bottom line in our sugya, in our quest to figure out where Ula Reb Chanina would say Allah Shimon Zuri, right? Here we have 2 places. Rav Papa's places by the measurement of the shida. Rav Shimon Zuri says the legs are less than a tefach. You count the area in between. And Rav Shimon Zuri is saying that coagulated wine, yes, but not coagulated devash, or not coagulated shemen. Says the Gemara. Tanya, we got a brisa, or Tosefta. Amar Rav Shimon Shizuri, Pam achas nis'aravli tevel b'chulin. It got mixed in tevel, untithed crop, b'chulin with tithed crop. Now here the problem is you want to separate Maisa, right? Ubasi v'shalti es Rabbi Tarfin, and I came in as Rabbi Tarfin what to do. For Amali, he said, Leich kach lecha min hashuk, go ahead and go to the street, v'aser alav, and whatever you buy in the street that has a lach of the mai, you'll go ahead and take maisrim. So what exactly is going on over here? So Rashi felt necessary to go ahead and anira be'enai. So let's see Rashi, fellas. Right before it gets wide, 2 lines up. V'nira be'enai. We have it? V'nira be'enai. Sha'tevel hazeh tevel gomer. This tevel is tevel gomer, meaning they didn't take off trumas amaisa. The kivan shenis arev bechulin, but once it got mixed with chulin, it's bottle. The miraisa chad betray bottle. Midaraisa chad betray is bottle. V'havile pata midaraisa, and therefore it's pata to take off truma. You don't have to take off trumas amaisa. For Rabbanan hu de achmir bei, and stachamu hu a machmir. For Omar tevel asa b'mashahu. Tevel is asa b'mashahu. So they were machmir over here. V'etzrichu lahafish alav truma, and therefore they required you to take over truma. Umiu mineu bei loy. You couldn't take off truma from the mixture itself. The chulin mutakin if the rulagamri, because the chulin that was there was totally potter. So guys, what do you have? Let's look. You have tevel deraisa mixed with chulin. Tevel you didn't tithe yet. Chulin is tithe. Really, you don't have to do anything. Midaraisa, it's bottle. However, the Chacham will machmir to require you to take off Trumas Maisa. I can't take off from this mixture Trumas Maisa because the Chulin already was pata from Trumas Maisa. What do you do? That's the scenario right there that we're facing right now. That's the scenario Rav Shimon Zuri was faced with. Continues the Rashi. And there's not even a chiyuv d'Rabbanan. For Amalei, say if there's no chiyuv d'Rabbanan on the Chulin, guys. But Amalei said Rabbi Tarfin to Rabbi Shimon Shizuri, say, well, leich v'kach min hashuk v'asur olav l'cheshben tevel shabai. You figure out how much tevel's in there, and according to the mai that you bought from the street, you'll take off. Because ksava roiv amaretz ma'asrin hein. Most Amaratzim do take off meiser. V'havile pata midaraisa, v'chay midrabanan. So be pata midaraisa, v'chay midrabanan, ki hai. Guys, look at me. Guys, look at me. You got tevel deraisa, you got chulin mixed together. Good. Demai, only chash drabanan. Good. Chachamim were machmir. They were machmir here, they were machmir there. Let the demai, which is a chumrah, go ahead and be mitzi the tevel mixed with the chulin, which is a chumrah. So that's what he told him to do. You got a problem, a derabanan problem? Go ahead, take a derabanan truma and take it a tevel and take it off. That was his eitzah. It's important, Rashi, to know, guys, because it's not so clear the problem. Rashi spells it out what exactly Rav Tarfon was going in and telling him to do. Yeah. Yes, Baruch.
The Mai is only a problem in Meiser. It's not a problem in Truma. This is Tevel, and you have Truma in there.
What?
You have Truma in
No,
there.
it's only the Rabbanon, Baruch. It's bottle. It's bottle.
I get
It's
it.
bottle.
But
It's
if you
bottle.
talk Truma with the Mai and everything, that only covers the Meiser part, not the Truma part.
I guess since it's the, I understand. I understand. But again, I guess you could separate the chash. You could say, listen, it's only the Rabbanon anyway. So I hear what you're saying. Okay. Says the Gemara. So now the Gemara makes a lot of sense. Says the Gemara. So you have the tevel midaraisa mixed. It's really midaraisa bottle, and they were mach midrabanan. He comes there. Rabbi Tarfon says to them, "Leich kachlecha min ashuk va'asur love ksava deraisa beruba bottle v'roiv amaratz ma'asim heim v'avilei kitoyrim min apater ala pater." So now you're being tired for something that's potter on, not something that's potter. V'lei mulei leich kach min oibik kechavim. I guess Baruch, it's bottle. It's bottle. So now he said the following: why did he tell him to go by the Mai? Why didn't he tell him to go by from a goy? Because the goy also, whatever grew in the goy's jurisdiction is not chayv and shumas ma'isa. Says the Gemara, "Ksav ein kinyan leiv dikechavim be'eretz Yisrael afkiyeh midei ma'isa." The goy's ownership does not go ahead and take off the kedusha of the land, and memela that grows there is chayiv deraisa. So if you buy from a goy, you would not be able to go ahead and use this because that would be b'havilei min achiyuv ala patur. That would be what one that's chayiv deraisa because the goy's kinyan did not take off the chiyuv, and on the patur where it was bottled already. So therefore, that wasn't an eitzah. Ikadi amri, it's going to be the exact opposite. Amalei Rav Tarfon told him, "Leich kachas leiv dikechavim, go buy from a goy." Whatever grows in the guy's jurisdiction is only chayv d'rabbanan. V'havilei min apater al apater, and then it would have been, tit for tat. V'leimelei kach me'ashuk. Why don't you tell him to go buy the mai? Ksava ein roiv ha'maretz ma'asrin. They said that he doesn't hold roiv take off. He says roiv doesn't take off. If roiv doesn't take off, then it's chayv d'raisa. Guy's good. Shalach le Rav Yemer bar Shalmaya le Rav Papa. Had Amar Ravim bar Chanina Amar Ula Amar Rav Chanina Halach Rav Shimon Zuri v'loyoid Elakom Makom Sheshana Rav Shimon Zuri Halach Gemaisai Af Ben Esarv Le Tevel Bechulin, even in the case that he just mentioned. In other words, Rav Shimon Zuri is that the halacha that Rav Tarfon told him. Amalei in Amar Rav Ashi Amali Mazutra Kashi bar Rav Chanina Misura. Well, he had a question. Pshita. What was his question? Mi kama Mishnah Seinu? Did it say what? Kol makom that we learned Rav Shimon Zuri in a Mishnah. Kol makom sheshana kamar. Any place he's learned, guys. We didn't learn only in a Mishnah. Well, just because this is Tosefta, right? Any place. So therefore, what? So those are the two places. But Allah will be like Shimon Zuri, Rav Papa, according by Shida Teva Migdal B'Shida. And Rav Nachman by Yitzchak by what? By Tevel, that got mixed with Maisa. Okay, back to our regular scheduled program. not Menachos, guys. Not Menachos. It's still Stam. We're still in the halachas of Stam. Amr Rabbi Zeiri, Amr Rav Chananel, Amr Rav, Kara Haba B'Shnei Shitin Yitfar. If you have a rip in the parchment from the top or the bottom, and it goes up two lines, right? You can go ahead and sew it. B'sholosh, 3 lines, al yitfar. So here you have your urea, guys. Here's you have urea. And if you have a rip over here, as long as it's 2 lines in, you could sew it. 3 lines in, you can't. However, guys, it's not, it's has to be between words. It can't be cutting a word. If it cuts a word, it's out. Again, that's pashut. So Amalei Rabba Zuti Ravashi, Hachi Amrav Yirmiyah, Midifti Mishmei de Rava. Hadamina B'Sholish al Yitfar, that we said 3, you can't. Loyamaran Ele Ba'atikta, an old one. Aval B'Chadata, less one, but a new one, you could. A new one, even it's 3, you'll be able to sew. But Loy Atikta Mamish, and age doesn't have anything to do with it. Loy Chadata Mamish, Ele Hode Loy Afitzon, Hode Afitzon. Pashit Pshat, again, there seems to be machlokus over here, whether it's talking about it was treated with gold nuts or not. You might remember for the Gittin days, guys, they would treat stars with gold nuts that you won't be able to counterfeit because it blackened it. So you know there was an erasure. You know there was something was erased. So Pashit Pshat, if it's new and it was new, the afitzim was new, then it would be okay. But if it was old, then it won't be okay. V'hani mili, you can sew it begidin only with sinus. So you can't stop use anything. Avol begardin, but by threads loy, that you won't be able to do. You have to go ahead and sew it with, even though it's not the ikar attachment. Halacha ma'ash misina, guys, you have to use sinus. Now, believe it or not, the Ramah passes you can use silk. When it says over here avol begardin, it's just thread you can't use. But silk, he said, because it seems to be very strong, silk seems to be a very strong substance, you'll be able to use silk, according to Ramah. Boy, Rav Yehuda Barabba, ben daf ledaf, ben shita l'shita mai. Let's say, guys, it's ripped, but the rip is between the dafin. Again, on your urea, guys, on this urea, you can fit between 3 and 8. Good? So now, the rip that's going down comes out. This is one column. This is another column. In other words, there's no letters here whatsoever. When we said that was between the letters, here it's between the columns. Here you have one and one over here. What's the din? Could it be more than 3? What about if it's written horizontal? If it's from the side, guys. What about from the side? If it comes from the side, those are two shilas, right? Bein dafladam and shita l'shita, mai. So on that we answered what? We answered teku. Yeah. Okay. Amar Amzri, Amar Abziri, Amar Rav Chananel, Amar Rav, mezuzah shekosvu shtayim kashera. If a mezuzah was written on 2 words on a line, it's kasha. You have a mezuzah, you put 2 words on a line, it's kasha. Iboilahu, shtayim usholish v'achas. You have 2, 3, 1. 2 on top, 3 in the middle, and 1. Okay, guys, look at the side. You see the shita Mekubet says? Guys, look at the shita on the side. You have pictures. You should have pictures. Okay, 2, 3, 1 is going to be good. Nothing. We're on Lamed Aleph Amid Beis. We're writing mezuzahs. We're in shita Mekubet says. Lamed Aleph Amid Beis. Shita Mekubet says. And we're looking at pictures. So the first picture, this is going to be good, guys. This is going to be 2, 3, 1. The next 2 will not be good. The next 2 is 1, 2, 3. It looks like a tent, like a teepee. And the other one, right, it looks like a tail, 3, 2, 1. So those aren't good. Notice, the first one is 2, 3, 1. The other ones are 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1. Those are not good. Okay, and then we'll get back to the other 2 pictures in a second. Okay, so Mesush Kosu Shtayim Kshera, Iboiluhu Shtayim Sholosh V'achas Mahu. Rav Nachman, this is a kol shekain that it's good. Shasa Keshira, because you made it like a shira, like Az Yashir, like Levanim. Mesavei Asa Keshira, a shira kemaisa psula. So how can you tell me that it would be? How can you tell me that uh, 231 would work. Kitanya he b'sefer Torah. This din that it's like a shira is no good is only in the sefer Torah. But in a mezuzah, if you make it look like a shira, that would be good. Itmanami Amar Rabbi Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan V'imila Amar Rav Acha Bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan mezuzah she'asa shtayim usholish v'achas. Again, the configuration 2, 3, 1 kshera. Ubevachli yasenu kikuba. Provided you don't make it like a tent, which is starting from the bottom 3, 2, 1. Right? That's the picture 3, 2, 1. Ubevachli yasenu kizonov, going down 3, 2, 1 from the top. That you can't do. Okay. Now, what's the last words? Right? So the words Kamei Shemaim Al Haaretz, fellas. So take a look at the pictures. You should write that what? That one opinion is make sure the Shemaim is on top of the Haaretz. If the Haaretz is at the end of the line, or if the Haaretz is at the beginning of the line, L'seisnem Hashemayim Al Haaretz. Right? That's the way it should be. Let's see the Gemara. Amrav Chisda Al Haaretz B'Shita Achrayna. Al Haaretz should be in the last line. Ikad the Amri B'Seif Hashita. Some say it should be at the end of the line. That's the fourth picture. You see it at the end of the line. Al Shemaim is at the end of the line. Ikad the Amri B'Tchila Shita. That's the last picture. That's the fifth picture. Right. Man the Amri B'Seif Shita. The one who says it's the end of the line. Ki Goyva Shemayim Al Haaretz. Right? That you want that the Shemaim understand the Goyva Shemaim Baretz. Umandiam Betchil Shita Ki Heichid Nemerachka Shemaim Baretz. Look, it's a distance away. So that's the limud. Rashi says, Mandiam B'Seif Shita Kidei Sheyu Shemaim Al Haaretz Demashma Kidesiv Ki Gova Shemaim Al Haaretz Kein Yarach Yemechem. Your days should be extended like the distance between the Shemayim Varetz. Right? That your day should be extended as such. Umandiam betchila shita kloimar boya chuke eretz m'shemayim. You have to distance yourself as much as possible. Da'achi mashma ki hechi d'merachka shemayim eretz ken yarichu yimayim. Just like Shemayim Varetz, guys, look, here Shemayim is Eretz Shemayim. That's how long you should live. So those are the different opinions. Okay. Amar Rav Chelboy, I guess we'll stop over here. Okay? I guess we'll stop over here.